glory to him who loved us and freed us by shedding his blood for us. And all glory to him whom the grave could not hold, but who rose again on the third day, conquering death, redeeming sin, and giving life to those who were once dead, but now can be alive forever and ever and ever. Let's sing, see what more. See what a morning, gloriously bright, with the dawning of hope in Jerusalem. Folded the grave clothes, tomb filled with light, as the angels announced Christ is risen. See God's salvation plan, God in love, born to pay, paid in sacrifice, fulfilled in Christ the Lamb, for He lives, Christ is risen from the dead. See Mary weeping, where is he laid? As in sorrow she turns from the empty tomb. Hears a voice speaking, calling her name. It's the Master, the Lord, gives her life again. That voice that spans the years, speaking life, stirring hope, bringing peace to us. Well, sound till he appears, for he lives, Christ is risen from the dead. One with the Father, Ancient of Days, through the Spirit of glows, faith with certainty. Honor and blessing, glory and praise to the King, crowned with power and authority. And we are raised with him. Death is dead, love is won, Christ is conquered. And we shall reign with him, for he lives, Christ is risen from the dead. And we are reign with him. Death is dead, love is won, Christ is conquered. And we shall reign with him, for he lives, Christ is risen from the dead.
Great, good afternoon to you. Nice to see you here. And as always, let me welcome you very warmly to today's ReLaunch. Some of you here for the first time, and delighted to welcome you very particularly. We do try and just have that moment in the middle of the day when we pause and not only get some good food, but just get a little bit of nourishment for our souls as well by pausing to reflect a little bit on what God has to say to us in the Bible. And today I thought we would start with someone who's no longer alive, but who has been a little bit in the news over the past few weeks. I'm not talking about the Queen or anyone like that, but I'll put a picture of the guy up on the screen for you so that you see who it is. And some of you may recognize who that is. Hands up if you recognize who that is. There's no reason why you should, because the reason for his fame is 95 years old, and I'm looking around and none of you are 95. So it's before your time, all of you. This is a guy who's called Dixie Dean. Familiar with the name? Yep. Yeah, you know all about him, eh? Football, that's right. Okay, so Dixie Dean was a footballer. And in 1927, 1928, he created a record that has not been broken. And the reason why he's a little bit in the news today is because there's a guy who's playing today who some people think maybe this guy will break the record. To which I say, no chance, absolutely no chance. The record that Dixie Dean had was that he scored 60 goals in 39 games in the top division of English football. That's never been remotely equaled at all since then. Quite a remarkable accomplishment from a very likable man back in 1927-28, that season. And he was once asked, it's the sort of question that people are asking today, will that record be broken? That's the question people are asking today. Will it ever be broken? And Dixie Dean himself was once asked that, and he's quite an amusing guy, and his answer is a very quotable quote. We'll put it on the screen for you. He said, "I think it will. But there's only one man who'll do it. That's the fellow who walked on the water. He's the only one." And he was making a reference, obviously, to Jesus. And basically, he was saying it's not going to happen because it would require a modern-day miracle for it to happen. And it's that really that is the theme that we're going to pick up on today, a question that we have running through the chapter that we've been looking at in John's account of the life and ministry of Jesus. We are thinking through some of the big questions that people have. And over the course of the past few weeks, we've considered the question, is anyone there? Does God care? And today we've got a very particular question that I suppose is sometimes there in the back of our minds, and that is simply, do miracles happen? Do miracles happen? So far as Dixie Dean was concerned, he was basically saying, no, it's not going to happen. It would take a miracle, and they don't happen, and that's just the end of the story. But the back of our mind there is the wondering, do miracles actually happen? Or are we limited in what we may expect in our circumstances to what we can figure out could possibly be done? And this chapter in the Bible picks up on that very theme, really. Do miracles happen? We're going to read just a few further verses in the chapter 11. From verse 11, we'll put them on the screen for you. Jesus went on to tell his disciples, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up." Now, Lazarus was, he's mentioned in the Bible as the brother of Mary and Martha. They lived in a place called Bethany. There's nothing particular about them. They were pretty ordinary individuals in a lot of ways. In fact, there's nothing more about Lazarus that we know than that the guy got ill and that he actually died. And the sisters, when he got ill, had sent a message to Jesus to come and help them. And Jesus, although he loved them, he didn't go immediately. He waited where he was. He was quite a distance away, a good couple of days' travel away. He just waited, did nothing. And they must have been wondering, why has Jesus not come? If he loves us, why doesn't he act as quickly as we would like? And then Jesus says, so now he says to his disciples, now we will go. And he explains that our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep. They assume that he is just talking about the fact that he's just tired and he's sleeping in his bed. His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." But Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. It's interesting the way that Jesus speaks about death here, not as something final, but as equivalent to sleep. Very real, but nonetheless not for him final. So far as we're concerned, so far as the disciples were concerned, death is very, very final. Because when someone dies, that's it. They are buried, and we mourn their passing, but they're not going to come back. And Jesus is saying, no, you need to think of death as not quite as final as that. And so he speaks of Lazarus having fallen asleep, and I'm going to waken him up. And so then he told them, the next verse 14, so then he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I'm glad I was not there, so that you may believe. Let us go to him. And so what he's doing is he is introducing his disciples, his followers, to the reality of the power that belongs to himself. He wants them to see for themselves that what may be humanly not possible, and nothing is less possible than bringing back from the dead someone who's died. He wants them to see that what is not possible for us as humans is possible for him. And that's why he says what he said there, Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there, so that you may believe, but let us go to him. And then Thomas, also known as Didymus, or the twin, said to the rest of the disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. I think Thomas was a little bit of a kind of pessimist, and he always looked on the kind of gloomy side of life and saw the worst and thought, yeah, well, okay, you're going to go, we're just going to die as well, so we might as well, because there was a lot of hostility back in that part of the land of Judah where Jesus was going, and he just figured, yeah, let's just sign up for it. We'll go with him, and we'll be goners as well. And so what I want us to think about just for a moment or two is just how we address this question. Do miracles happen? And there are three very simple truths that it's helpful for us to get a hold of in figuring out how to answer that question. The first is to recognize that in the Bible, miracles, particularly by John here who wrote this, but miracles are often called signs. That's to say, there are things that Jesus does. It's not magic. It's not like he sort of says abracadabra and he pulls a rabbit out of a hat and you think, wow, I don't know how he did that. That's amazing. The miracles are almost invariably to be understood as kind of signs. They are pictures of who God is, what God is like, what God does, so that we get a better understanding of who God is and what God does. And that's how miracles are to be understood. They're not dramatic bits of magic that we can twist Jesus' arm and say, let's see you do something, please. We want to see something spectacular. It's not like that. They are signs. He does things in order that we might get a better picture of who he is. So this particular situation, what he wants them to understand is that he is the creator God, and he is the God who is able to impart life, even to those that are dead. So miracles, first of all, are called signs. Second thing that it's helpful for us just to get a hold of is that there is no doubt that Jesus did some extraordinary things, extraordinary things. Not kind of crazy things like pulling a rabbit out of a hat, and you think, where did that come from? Because there's no connection at all between a rabbit and a hat. But ordinary things that we are accustomed to that in his handling become extraordinary. So the feeding of the multitude, whereby from a few small loaves and fish, a multitude of people are fed. How did that happen? It's an ordinary thing, because when you take a grain of wheat and you plant it in the ground, it does multiply. And in the hands of Jesus, what is happening is he just is able to speed up ordinary processes so that what might otherwise take months or sometimes years is done instantly. But it's extraordinary. It's an ordinary thing that is done in such a way that it becomes in his hands quite extraordinary. Similarly, the water into wine. That's how you get wine. It's water that has become wine. The water falls in the ground. It's soaked up by the vine. The vine feeds the juices to the grapes. The grapes grow through the rain and the sun and so on. And eventually the grapes are then crushed. And eventually, way down the line, you get wine. And the miracle that Jesus performs is he is doing the ordinary and doing it in an instant. So that what takes time normally suddenly is there before you. extraordinary things. That's the second thing. And the third thing, and you're probably thinking now, I kind of know what the initial is going to be here. I hope you do, because the answer to the question is yes. But the important thing is that Jesus really is putting his followers on the spot all the time and asking them, do you believe? Because that's important. If you don't expect God to do anything, don't expect God to do anything. It's not complicated. If you don't expect God to do anything, don't expect God to do anything. And that's why Jesus is saying, so I'm wanting you to come with me, and I'm asking you to trust me on this. And give Thomas credit for all that he's a kind of pessimist, and for all he maybe is just shrugging his shoulder and thinking the worst. He does say, yeah, well, okay, we'll go. I'm not really too positive about this, but we will go with you. We will see what you're going to do, and we'll kind of live with the consequences. He's prepared to trust Jesus and go where Jesus goes. And you will see as the story unfolds that as that happens, as they begin to take these first tentative steps in trusting Jesus, believing in him, that they begin to see those extraordinary things that he does. And that's how we learn to live our lives and begin to recognize that the answer to the question, do miracles happen, is yes, they do. As we too in our time learn to trust him, as we begin to understand that he's not magic, and it's not a kind of, if I could only find the right way to pray and get the right formula and say the right words, abracadabra, boom, what I've always really wanted would happen. It just doesn't work like that. He's not magic. Miracles are signs. He is painting pictures, doing things so that we can better understand how great he is, how good he is, how sovereign he is. And he does extraordinary things as we learn to step out and trust him. And it's those steps of simple trust and faith that we're called upon to exercise and begin to discover for ourselves that with him, extraordinary things happen. So let me just round off with a prayer. Lord, thank you for the message of the Bible. Thank you that through its pages you teach us about yourself, and you help us to see and understand the better just how mighty you are and how able you are to meet all our needs, so that there is no situation that you're not able to handle. Help us to trust you. And perhaps today especially, if there are those here who are really struggling with a particular problem, would you draw near to them and help them simply to hand that problem over to you in the confidence that you'll be able to address that, resolve that, and you'll be pleased to do so in a way that will do them good and will bring you glory. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for all that you are, for all that you do. Help us to step on out from here in that same confidence that you will be the same for us as you were for your original followers, and we'll gladly give you the praise for it, for your own name's sake. Amen. Good. Well, enjoy the rest of your lunch and enjoy the rest of your time here. We'll be back again next Wednesday for another relaunch in the middle of the week, and we'll follow through the story and take it on from there.